The moment I saw him, everything stopped. My breath, my heartbeat. The world itself seemed to pause. It had been a decade. 10 full years since our paths last crossed. And there he stood in the middle of the plaza, leaning against the old stone fountain, afternoon sunlight catching his features exactly as I remembered. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Ryan," I breathed, barely audible. He turned. His eyes widened briefly, then softened with recognition. Sophia. The world contracted to just us. Traffic noise faded. Pedestrians became blurred shadows. The fountain water seemed to freeze mid-cascade. Everything else simply melted away. My hands trembled. I hadn't prepared for this. Not here, not today. Not ever, really. I took a hesitant step forward, my legs feeling unsteady. "I can't believe it's actually you." "After all this time," he smiled. That same devastating smile that had once made my knees weak. "I know." I can hardly believe it myself. We stood there, simply staring. The sounds of the plaza became distant background noise. A street performer's music. Laughter from a nearby cafe. It all belonged to some other reality. Only him. Only this moment. I remembered our last encounter vividly. College graduation. Whispered promises beneath a starlit sky. Plans made with young hearts that believed love could conquer anything. But life had different ideas. Families relocated. Misunderstandings accumulated. And then nothing. Just silence. Years upon years of silence. Now here he stood. Different somehow. More mature, steadier, carrying a quiet confidence I didn't recognize. But that spark in his eyes, the one that had made me fall in love originally, remained unchanged. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again," I admitted. My voice cracked slightly. "Neither did I," he said. He took a cautious step closer. "But something compelled me to come here today." I swallowed hard, feeling hope and panic collide. "Why this place?" "The fountain," he said quietly. "Do you remember? 10 years ago, we promised we'd meet here someday." "No matter what happened," I gasped. I'd nearly forgotten that youthful promise. Yet suddenly the memory crashed over me like a wave. That evening, we had laughed, created impossible plans, and carved our initials into the fountain's base. I hadn't realized until this moment that those initials were still faintly visible. "Would you like to sit?" he asked, gesturing toward the fountain's edge. I nodded, unable to form words. We sat side by side, awkward initially, then gradually settling into easy conversation, as if the years had never happened. We discussed surface things, careers, travels, mutual friends, but underneath, a current of unspoken emotion flowed between us. "I never stopped thinking about you," he confessed eventually. My stomach flipped. "Ryan," I stopped. Someone was approaching, calling his name. "Ryan! There you are!" He turned, frowning. A woman was walking toward him, smiling confidently, carrying a coffee cup, and then it clicked. My heart sank. This wasn't just a random reunion. She wasn't part of my past. She was part of his present. He hesitated, caught between two worlds. His eyes flickered back to me, conflicted. I felt a strange mixture of hope and fear. Part of me wanted to flee. Part of me wanted to stay and fight for what we'd had. Could this be a second chance? Or had fate brought me here just to remind me of what I'd lost? The woman reached him. "Ryan, I've been looking everywhere. Did you get my message?" I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. He looked at me one final time before turning to her. The tension between them was obvious, but so was the pull he still felt toward me. I swallowed hard. My heart raced, and then he said something unexpected. Something that made my breath catch. "I need to explain everything. But not here, not now. Can you come with me?" I stared at him, uncertain whether I should follow or run. The fountain sparkled in the sunlight, our initials glowing faintly, as if reminding me of a promise long forgotten. Just like that, my quiet Saturday had transformed into the beginning of something I never anticipated. I didn't know if it was love, fate, or a mistake. But I knew one thing. I was about to find out, and before I could decide, Ryan stepped toward me, and everything changed. As we walked away from the fountain, the world seemed to blur at the edges. I could feel the weight of 10 years pressing down on us, heavy and strange. Ryan didn't speak initially, just glanced at me with that familiar mixture of hesitation and something softer. Something like longing. My mind drifted backward in fragments. I remembered our first meeting. It was a school talent showcase, and I'd been nervously adjusting my costume backstage, trying not to trip over my own feet. Ryan had appeared seemingly from nowhere, leaning casually against the wall with a knowing smile, holding a worn notebook. "You're going to be amazing," he'd said quietly. Just loud enough for me to hear. I'd wanted to be annoyed, but something about his tone, the way he said it without mockery, just observation, made me laugh instead. "Thanks for the confidence boost," I'd replied, raising an eyebrow. He'd grinned. I recognize talent when I see it. From that evening forward, we'd been inseparable. He was the first person who truly listened. The first person who made me feel seen for who I actually was, not just how I appeared. "Remember the Harvest Festival?" I whispered as we walked, my voice catching slightly. He smiled, somewhat surprised I'd voiced it. "You mean the one where you almost fell into the apple bobbing barrel?" I laughed, remembering the chaos. "You caught me. I stumbled. And you grabbed me just in time. Then you got completely soaked too," he chuckled. "I'd do it 1,000 times just to see you laugh like that." The memories were like shards of light, sharp and beautiful and impossible to forget. We'd spent afternoons in the plaza, evenings at the bookstore, weekends at the corner cafe. Every moment had felt infinite, like time didn't exist outside our bubble. Yet somewhere amid all that closeness, things began unraveling. "I don't understand why you stopped reaching out," I said quietly, my fingers barely brushing his. "One day you were there and the next, nothing." He swallowed hard. "I thought I was doing the right thing," I frowned. How could abandoning me be right? "I got scared," he admitted, eyes fixed on the sidewalk. "My family was relocating across the country. I thought I couldn't. I didn't want to hurt you. I convinced myself that silence was better than promises I couldn't keep." I bit my lip. 10 years of wondering. 10 years of imagining every possible reason, all condensed into one simple confession. The simplicity of it made my heart ache. "I waited," I said almost bitterly, though my voice trembled. "I waited for messages that never came, for calls that didn't happen. I thought maybe I wasn't worth it." "You were worth everything," he said softly. "I was just a coward. I should have been honest. I should have said goodbye properly." Quiet settled between us. The sound of our footsteps on the pavement was the only thing filling the space. My chest tightened, not with anger, but with the weight of lost years, of opportunities that had slipped through our fingers like water. Then a sudden memory hit me. I remembered that night after graduation, the night we'd promised to meet at the fountain. I had waited there, cold and anxious, watching the water ripple under moonlight, thinking he might still appear. I'd eventually gone home, tears streaming, convinced that life had moved him on without me. But now, standing here, I realized something. That night, it hadn't been him who failed to show. There had been a misunderstanding so small, so absurd, that it had cost us a decade of what could have been. "What is it?" Ryan asked, sensing my pause. I shook my head slowly, trying to process it. "I think I've just remembered why we really didn't meet that night." He stopped walking. "What do you mean?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a weathered envelope I'd kept for years. It was yellowed with age, the handwriting unmistakable. Mine. I had written it after graduation. A letter explaining everything I'd felt, explaining that I wasn't angry, that I still loved him, that I was waiting. But somehow it had never reached him. Ryan's eyes widened. "You wrote me a letter," I nodded, holding it carefully. "I think this is why we lost each other for so long. Not distance, not fear, just a lost letter." He looked at me as though I'd suddenly become the most precious thing in the world. "A lost letter?" he whispered, almost to himself. I felt a shiver of something new. Hope, fear, and disbelief all mixed together. 10 years of silence, of longing, suddenly explained by one small twist of fate. In that moment, I realized our story wasn't over. It had only been paused, waiting for us to find each other again. As I watched him reach for the envelope with trembling hands, I couldn't help but notice the faint smile on his lips. The kind that always made my heart skip, and I knew somehow that what came next would change everything. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and aged paper. I hadn't expected him to choose this place, but when Ryan walked through the door, my heart leaped anyway. He looked comfortable in a simple sweater and jeans, but older, steadier, more intentional. The spark, though, that was still there. "Sophia," he said, voice low, almost careful. "Ryan," I replied, sliding into the booth across from him. My hands fidgeted with the edge of the table. He studied me for a long moment, as if trying to memorize every detail of a life he hadn't witnessed for 10 years. "You look well," he said finally. "Really well." I smiled, though it didn't quite reach my eyes. "You too. Different, but good." There was a pause, a charged silence that neither of us wanted to break, yet neither could escape. Of that lost letter hovered between us, heavy but unspoken. "So," I started, glancing at my cup, "I didn't think I'd see you again. Not like this." He leaned back, fingers drumming lightly on the table. "Me neither. But something I don't know brought me here." "You know?" I nodded, heart racing. "Yeah, fate maybe. Or stubborn luck." He laughed softly, a sound that made everything else fade. "I thought about you constantly. Not just sometimes. All the time." My breath caught. "Ryan, I never wanted to let go," he admitted, leaning forward. "I just didn't know how to stay without ruining everything. I thought distance would protect both of us, but it didn't. It only left me hollow." I felt the same hollowness. 10 years of imagining, wondering, and fearing the worst had carved a quiet ache inside me. Now it was filling again, right here in front of him. "Why didn't you ever reach out?" I asked, voice trembling. "I tried," he said quickly. "I sent messages. Maybe some got lost. Maybe I wasn't brave enough to trust they'd arrive. But I wanted to tell you everything." The tension between us was palpable, coiling tight, then relaxing in unpredictable waves. Every glance, every pause held the weight of years. I wanted to forgive him. I wanted to laugh and pretend it hadn't hurt. But the truth was it had hurt deeply. Yet I also wanted to reach across the table and close the distance, to feel the connection I thought was gone forever. "So what now?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. He leaned closer, eyes intense. "I don't know. I just couldn't leave without seeing you, without knowing if you still feel something, if there's still a chance." I swallowed, unsure what to say. My heart shouted yes. My mind whispered caution. But there was no time for logic now. Just the raw pulse of being here with him, the same way we had years ago. A sudden crash at the counter made us both jump. Someone had dropped a tray, spilling drinks everywhere. Ryan jumped up to help, grabbing napkins and offering apologies. I laughed, a short, nervous sound, and he smiled at me. That smile still held the power to melt me, even in the middle of a crowded cafe. When the mess was cleaned and we sat back down, both slightly flushed, we were both aware of how fragile and fleeting these moments were. "You know," he said quietly, tracing the rim of his cup, "I've thought about this for years. How it would be if I saw you again. And I never imagined this?" I asked, unsure if I should lean closer or pull away. "This," he said, gesturing between us. "This feeling like we never left each other, like nothing else matters." I swallowed. The words felt too heavy and too light all at once. "I feel it too," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes softened. "Sophia..." We didn't speak after that because we didn't have to. The truth hung in the air, unspoken yet undeniable. 10 years of distance, misunderstanding, and lost chances had led us to this single fragile moment. Then, as if testing the waters, he asked, "Do you want to see the place where it all started?" "The fountain?" My heart skipped. "You mean tonight?" He nodded. "Tonight. I just need to show you something. I need to see if there's still an us." I hesitated, caught between fear and desire, between past heartbreak and present hope. But something inside me stirred, that old spark of courage I hadn't felt in years. "Okay," I said finally. "Tonight. Let's go." He reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. A simple touch, but it set off a wave of memories and feelings I thought I'd buried. His warmth, his presence, it was enough to make me believe in second chances. As we left the cafe, the evening sky painted in streaks of orange and violet. I felt the pull of the past and the promise of the present colliding, and in the back of my mind, a quiet thought lingered. What if the fountain, our old promise, still held more surprises than either of us could imagine? The fountain was peaceful, bathed in golden light as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Shadows stretched across the stone, and the water shimmered as if it remembered us. Ryan stood a few steps ahead, staring down at the initials we'd carved years ago. I hesitated, unsure what to say. My heart pounded, not with fear but with anticipation. 10 years of silence had built a weight between us. Now, finally, it was time to face it. He turned to me. Sophia, I owe you the truth. Everything. I nodded. I'm listening. He took a deep breath. After graduation, when my family told me we had to move, I panicked. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I stayed in touch, it would just make saying goodbye harder. So I left without a proper goodbye. I remembered that night, the one I'd replayed 1,000 times in my mind. I had waited at this fountain, shivering, hoping he would appear. I'd thought he'd abandoned me. Now the truth hit me like cold rain. Ryan, all this time I thought it was my fault, I said quietly. I blamed myself for everything that happened. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. He shook his head, stepping closer. No, Sophia. Never you, it was me. I was scared. I thought I was protecting you by leaving. I didn't realize I was breaking us instead. The sound of water lapping against the fountain made the silence heavier. I felt tears rise not from anger but from relief that the mystery, the years of wondering, were finally unraveling. And the letter? I asked. Did you ever receive it? He looked down at his hands, shame in his eyes. No, I never did. I don't know what happened. Maybe it got lost in the movie. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right places. I can't even imagine what I missed. I swallowed hard. You missed 10 years. 10 years of waiting, hoping. My voice broke. He reached for my hand, gentle and careful. And I missed them too. Every single day, I studied his face. The years had changed him, yes, but they hadn't taken away the part of him I'd loved. The part that understood me without words. So all this time, it was just a mistake. Yes, he said softly. A mistake. A cruel, stupid mistake. But here we are. And I don't want to waste another moment. I wanted to reach for him, to let go of every fear, every hurt, every doubt. But the truth still had its edges. Ryan, if we try again, it can't erase what happened. It can't fix the years we lost. I know, he said. I'm not asking to erase anything. I'm asking for a chance. That's all. The air felt electric. The fountain sparkled, catching the last light of day. My chest ached with longing and caution both at once. I could feel the pull of the past, the weight of the present, and the uncertainty of the future all in one moment. And what if it's not enough? I asked. What if the distance, the silence, what if it changed us forever? He looked at me, steady and calm. Then at least we tried. At least we faced it together. I'd rather try and risk everything than live another 10 years wondering what could have been. I took a shaky breath. I don't know if I'm ready. I'll wait, he said simply. As long as you need. But Sophia, I can't pretend anymore. I can't hide how I feel. You mean too much to me? His words landed like soft thunder, reverberating through me. The truth of his love, his regret, his honesty. It was both terrifying and freeing. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to step forward and let the years fall away. But something held me back. A quiet fear of what might come next. A hesitation that had survived a decade of longing. Ryan's hand hovered near mine, just inches away. I'm here, he whispered. Right now. No mistakes, no silence. Just us, can you accept that? I looked at him. The familiar warmth in his eyes, the promise in his voice. My heart wanted to say yes. My mind wanted to say wait. And then I noticed something. A folded piece of paper tucked under the edge of the fountain. I bent down and picked it up. My fingers trembled. It was old, worn at the edges, and my name was written on it in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Ryan, I said. What is this? He leaned close. What did you find? I opened it slowly, and the words inside made my chest stop. It wasn't my letter from the past. It was his. A confession he had written that night after graduation. A letter explaining why he'd left, why he'd stayed silent. I looked up at him, eyes wide. You wrote this? He nodded, quiet shame in his gaze. I never sent it. I couldn't. I was too scared. I wanted to protect you, but I see now I only hurt us both. The fountain seemed to shimmer brighter, like it had been waiting for this moment. The air between us held a fragile, trembling truth, one that could either pull us together or tear us apart. In that instant, I realized the choice wasn't just his or mine. It was ours together. I held the letter in my hands, heart racing, staring at Ryan, and knew that whatever happened next would change everything. I held the letter carefully, the paper soft and fragile from years of waiting. Ryan's eyes were fixed on me, calm and steady, filled with the same sincerity I had once fallen in love with. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The fountain rippled gently, reflecting the soft evening light as if holding its breath. "This explains everything," I whispered. My fingers traced the lines of his words that had been trapped on paper all these years. "You were scared. You didn't mean to leave me. I didn't know another way," he finished for me. His hand brushed mine across the stone edge of the fountain, warm and real. "I wanted to protect us, but I only hurt us instead. I'm sorry, Sophia. I've been sorry for 10 years. I looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. No excuses, no blame, just honesty. My heart swelled, a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "Ryan," I waited. "I thought I'd lost you forever." He squeezed my hand gently. "You didn't lose me. I was always here in some way. Even when I left, even when I was silent, you never left my mind." The words hung in the air, soft and tender, like the fading light around us. I felt a warmth spread through me, a kind of quiet forgiveness that didn't erase the past but honored it. I exhaled, feeling years of weight lift from my shoulders. "Do you think we can try again?" I asked, voice small but hopeful. Ryan's smile was slow, steady, full of calm certainty. "I've never stopped wanting to. I think we were always meant to come back to each other." We stood together in silence for a moment, letting the years of separation settle into understanding. I unfolded the letter once more, reading the last lines aloud. "I wish I had the courage to stay. I hope one day you'll understand that my love never left." I looked at him, eyes glistening. "I understand now. And my love never left either." He reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear, and for the first time in a decade, I let myself lean into him. The fountain sparkled at our feet, catching the light as if the world itself was approving our reunion. "Shall we go?" he asked softly. I nodded. "Where?" "Anywhere," he said. "As long as we're together." We walked side by side, the gentle sounds of evening around us. Distant laughter, the soft splash of the fountain, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. It felt like life had paused just for us, giving us a second chance we hadn't expected. Then my hand brushed against the edge of the fountain again. I noticed something small tucked into a crevice, another folded note. Curious, I picked it up. It was a simple message written in faded ink. "No matter the distance, no matter the silence, love always finds its way back." I looked at Ryan and he smiled, a quiet knowing in his eyes. "I wrote that," he admitted. "The night I left. I thought if you ever found it, you'd know I never stopped loving you." I felt tears prick the corners of my eyes, but they were happy tears this time. The small gesture, the letters, the honesty, it was all a testament to a love that had endured, patient and true. I reached for him, letting go of the past entirely. "Then I guess we both waited for the right time." "Yes," he said, voice soft. "And maybe that's what makes this even more real." We stayed there a moment longer, hands entwined, hearts finally aligned. The fountain, the carved initials, the letters, we'd come full circle. What had once been lost was now found, not in grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but in quiet, enduring love. As the sun dipped completely below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, I leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I think this is the beginning of the rest of us," I whispered. He smiled against my hair. "The rest of us," he echoed, holding me close. In that moment, I understood something I had known all along but hadn't dared to believe. Some loves aren't forgotten. Some hearts don't let go. Some promises, silent and simple and patient, can survive time, distance, and mistakes. We stayed there by the fountain, letting the quiet night hold us. For the first time in years, I felt completely, undeniably home. Because love, true love, doesn't end. It waits, it endures, it transforms, and when the time is right, when two hearts are finally ready, it returns, stronger and more beautiful than ever before. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Ryan took my hand and we walked away from the fountain together, not into an uncertain future, but into a shared one. A future we'd choose together, built not on the promises of youth, but on the understanding of two people who'd learned that love is worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth believing in. The fountain behind us continued its gentle song, a witness to endings and beginnings, to losses and reunions, to a love that had finally come home.